Planned Parenthood versus Unarmed Black Lives Matter. Although black Americans comprise 13.4% of the U.S. population, they accounted for 36% of the abortions in 2015, which was almost identical to the percentage of abortions, 36.9%, that year among white Americans, who make up 76.6% of the population. They're using a little bit different. This is, if it's white, non-Hispanic, it's a lot lower than 76.6, but you can look that up on your own, see how that goes. As the CDC documented in its abortion surveillance report for 2015, released on November 23, 2018, there were 124,893 white abortions and 121,829 black abortions that year, a difference of 3,064 babies killed. The report also showed that the abortion rate among black people, 25.1, was significantly higher than that of white people, 6.8. Abortion rate, according to the CDC, describes the number of abortions in a certain racial or ethnic group per 1,000 women in that same group. In addition, the abortion ratio, or the number of abortions per 1,000 live births within a given racial or ethnic group, was much higher among black women, 390, than white women, 111. In Georgia, for example, where blacks make up 32.2% of the population and whites make up 60.8%, black women had 62.4% of abortions, while whites only had 24.7%. In New York City, and I'll get into some data for the next year for them, in New York City in 2015, more black children were aborted than were born alive. According to the New York State Department of Health, there were 22,838 live births of non-Hispanic black babies in New York City, compared with 25,698 non-Hispanic black babies who were aborted. That year, black women in New York City had 15,929 more abortions than white women, despite being a smaller population in the area. Other states where black children were aborted in disproportionately high numbers in 2015 included Alabama, Arkansas, Delaware, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Sick people. It is important to note that the scope of the report was limited, since reporting the CDC was voluntary. While the CDC requested data from all 50 states as well as Washington, D.C. and New York City, many of these areas either did not report or provided incomplete information. 22 states did not provide information on abortions by race and ethnicity, including New York, which reported the highest abortion rate in the country in 2015 at 22.0, as well as Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Washington, all states with high abortion rates, according to the CDC data. All those states are states that lean towards the Democrat side most of the time as well. For 2016 in these United States, for the areas reporting in 2016 now, in these United States, for the areas reporting data on abortions by ethnicity, there were 126,841 abortions performed on white women, 137,510 abortions performed on black women, 29,731 abortions performed on women categorized as other race, and 68,164 abortions performed on Hispanic women. For New York City, there were 9,139 abortions performed on white women, 23,209 abortions performed on black women, 5,201 abortions performed on women of an other race/ethnicity, and 16,718 abortions performed on Hispanic women. In New York City in 2016, there were 22,123 black-only live births and 23,209 abortions of black children. So again, more black abortions than there are black live births. So what is it? What's going on there? All those children were unarmed. So tell me again how Democrats care about unarmed black folks. New York City has become a city that is sick. These people are destitute, they are lost, they are evil, and they need to repent. No wonder this city is circling the drain. This is a huge problem, and it is mystifying that there are so many irresponsible people in one place at one time. I wonder what the median time is between meeting Mr. Right in New York City and getting impregnated by Mr. Right, only to terminate that unarmed child in the womb. 1 week, perhaps? New York City needs a dose of personal responsibility, folks, and getting pregnant because you are akin to a wild dog is not a valid excuse for an abortion. If you get raped and that pregnancy was forced on you, that's a different scenario. But being an irresponsible, selfish fool is no excuse. And if you wonder why New York City is literally COVID-19 central, if you wonder why New York City was the U.S. epicenter of the AIDS epidemic as it began to sweep across the U.S., if you wonder why there are so many folks suffering and struggling in New York City, look at the type of folks that inhabit it. Didn't Joe Biden say recently, "Show me your friends and I will show you who you are"? Well, Joe, New York City is a friend of the Democrat Party. It's full of dead bodies, some unborn, some born. It's began a slow deterioration. I'm afraid if it continues at this pace, it will become like Baltimore in 10 to 20 years. In fact, Joe, show me the cities that vote Democrat. Some of them, the large urban centers that have been voting Democrat for decades and decades. Show me your cities that vote for you, and I'll show you who you are, buddy. Yeah, a lot of violence. I'll leave a link for that too. These people are sick. They're looking for salvation in a needle or a bottle. Don't thank me now for the sobering information. So the next time you hear a Democrat talk about unarmed Black Lives Mattering, maybe ask them, which Black lives exactly are you talking about?